Everything is fine here on Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. I'm Mike, joined by James DeFranco over there.
One day I'll fix that.
Keeps people on their toes. Here to talk Star Wars. Obviously, some good stuff to talk about. The season 3 of Bad Batch just released. So we saw the first 3 episodes, and that will be the meat and potatoes of what we talk about today. We will kind of talk through the episodes a little bit, give our thoughts and opinions on it, feedback, some excitement. And just a reminder, we are live right now. So if you just recently watched the episodes and you have a lot to talk about them as well, bring it to a chat, talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and everything. So, but before that, it's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded. A lot going on. How you doing there, Dustin?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Again, name's Dustin, right? For newbies, not James. My dad used my computer once, and I just haven't really gotten around to changing the name. So not really a big deal there. But been doing good. We went to Florida and enjoyed our time down there. It was when we booked the flights, we probably thought it's gonna be like a 90-degree difference between Florida and Minnesota at that time, and it was like 13 degrees difference. So it was
Gonna
like
say, little
55.
did you know.
Yeah, it's 55 in um, Minnesota and like 68 degrees, 70 degrees there. So uh, still, I mean, the sun just hits different. It just does. So enjoyed it. There was a heated pool, so we got to swim. My son, who's a 2.5-year-old, really enjoyed that. Took him to SeaWorld. He really enjoyed that. Uh, just loves dolphins. It's like obsessed with those sea creatures. So it was really fun. We got a lot done that day. We were there for like 8 hours. It was kind of crazy.
Do they still have Shamu at there at SeaWorld? Or was that
No,
like deemed
yeah, they
like
they
unacceptable now?
yeah. I mean, they're a little bit more friendly, I guess. They're not putting them through the ringer, but I mean, I enjoyed it as an adult. It was fun to be there. Way better than going to like at this point any of the Disney parks, for where Bennett is age wise. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's good. Did you get to the ocean and everything too?
no ocean. No, I mean again, it just wasn't really warm enough. Like, what are you gonna do? Just look at it, you know?
Right. Is there
Just
a little
look at it.
delay? I ask a question and then there's like a 2-second delay.
I don't think so. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but I watch it and it's like 2-second delay when the response comes through.
Huh. Weird. Hopefully.
Technicalities, technical difficulties. Maybe it'll work through as our internet catches up with us a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, because you just froze for a second. So
Well,
I
I'm
wonder if
glad you got some vacation time then. Did you get to relax and enjoy yourself then?
no, there's no such thing as relaxing with a toddler. It doesn't exist.
Understandable. I don't have a toddler. I have a 7-month-old, and things have been pretty crazy around here. So, a couple weeks ago, my 7-month-old ended up with an intussusception. And if you're not familiar with that,
Gesundheit.
that is when the intestines start like telescoping over itself. And as a result, it starts like digesting it. So it starts killing off the intestines a little bit. Um, Long story short, he had a 5-day stint at Children's where he had a procedure that removed 6 inches of his intestine, part of his colon, and his appendix. He's doing fabulous now. He just had his first day back at swim lessons. He had to take 2 weeks off from that, but getting back to doing the things that he was doing prior to it. So our family went through that. And then 2 weeks later, I ended up in the emergency room for a blood clot. So I had a blood clot from the back of my knee all the way up to my abdomen. And they ended up having to go through the back of my knee, up through the vein, the iliac vein, doesn't matter, and cleared it out. So I'm on blood thinners now. So that's why since I just started the blood thinner, I didn't want to like jump to drinking
Yeah, you better
whiskey
be
or
ready to
bourbon
pound some
on the.
brewskis in a couple weeks. Then. Oh, how
I
long
won't
do
be
you
able
have to
to
be on blood
pound
thinners
them.
for?
Might be the rest of my life,
Oh, geez, man.
depending on the labs that come back.
Well, I've
So,
got
well,
DD for
and as a grant.
Lexington. How about that?
Yeah, because there's no dietary restrictions with being on the blood thinner I'm on, so Eliquis, but they need you to not go over the acceptable alcohol limit, which is 14 alcohol units, which like one unit is equivalent to like one light beer or like a glass of whiskey, like a shot of whiskey in a glass is like 2 alcohol units, and that's for a week. So you're allowed 14 alcohol units a week. So I have to space all that stuff out. But I'm on like double dose right now, so I'm for the first week, so I'm not testing anything. So the doc said we'll do the blood thinners for at least 3 to 6 months, potentially a year. And then what they do is if they don't find anything like with my blood labs that they'll take, then they'll take me off the blood thinner and just wait and see if clots happen again. If clots happen again, then I have to be on the thinner for the rest of my life. If not, then I can go on without having to do blood thinner because they're thinking it was the RS. So I also tested positive for RSV while I was in the hospital. So they suspect that that's what triggered the blood clots, which would be a good thing because then that would mean that it wasn't like a blood disorder or a blood clotting disorder, which means I could potentially get off the blood thinners and be back to the way I was. But so yeah, because I had been sick for 4 or 5 weeks and come to find, and I kept taking COVID tests, negative left and right, but come to find out it was RSV, which has been really going around, especially in daycares lately. And I think I caught it from Jackson because he had been sick too. But so that's where we're at, catching everyone up to why we haven't been recording the past few weeks. Just a lot going on. So with that, should we start talking some Star Wars stuff?
Let's start talking about Star Wars, man. We finally have a show to talk about, and it's been a little bit. It feels like what's that meme? Old lady from the Titanic. It's been 87 years.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a while. I mean, we're so used to getting, at least last year, we had so much content spitting out. And I know we just had the Ahsoka show that ended in what, December or something like that. Yeah, I think it was December that ended. But it just seems like it's been a while. And on other news too, it was just released or announced today that the Acolyte season 1 will premiere on June 5th of this year. So that's exciting. We'll get through this Bad Batch, and then just around the corner, we'll get Acolyte to talk about as well. So lots of things to come. And I mean, there's the second season of Jedi. What is that? Tales of the Jedi? Yeah, Tales of the Jedi.
Yep.
We'll get a season 2 of that coming out this year too. So fun stuff. All right, on to Bad Batch. So let's just kind of, since we had 3 episodes that released, I won't go like talk about everything that happened in it, but let's break each episode off and talk about them individually, and then we can talk about what we've seen in the season so far. So episode 1, titled Confined. Essentially it was centered around Omega. She's, the Empire has captured her and she's in this research facility. Obviously, like cloning or something of the sort is the main focus of this facility. And they're just kind of showing the rigorous routine that takes place within this facility. We essentially watch the same scene 3 or 4 times, just odd and end differences here and there. Some interactions between Omega and Crosshair, Omega, and well, she's always with, I can't remember her name, the scientist, but that's her
Emery.
sister. Is that what it, Emery?
It's Emery.
Okay. So a lot to untie there, but we did get we didn't get the word midichlorians, but we got
M count.
M count, which has to be midichlorians, right? I mean,
Yeah, you would think.
so
I don't mind the
obviously,
midichlorian thing. I really don't.
no, I don't
Like,
either. I
I
don't
mean,
either. I mean,
everyone
I
wants like to
prefer
force
not
it as just some mystical
having
thing and
it.
kind of explains it in a scientific manner.
Yeah, I'd rather not have it, but I don't care. It's not like midichlorians. It's stupid. It does make sense in certain regards, and then in other ways it doesn't. But yeah, I have no problem with it. But just thought it was pretty cool that we got an M drop. So uh, again, obviously something force sensitive being researched here or being cloned here. Curious what it ends up being. Is it Snoke? Is it um, something we haven't seen yet? We'll just have
I
to
think
wait
I
and
know
see.
the
But
answer. I think the answer is pretty obvious, but you know, we can talk about that in the third episode.
okay, yeah, we can wait for that in the third episode. So, what did you take from the first episode? I really enjoyed it. I know it was um, kind of repetitive within itself. Like I said, it's kind of the same routine that you explore, but you know, I, I love that it seemed extremely dark. The music that was with it and everything, just it really made you captivated for seeing the same thing over and over. What do you think?
Yeah, it was good. You know, that like opening scene where the stormtroopers go down and basically like, well, they're already dead. Like,
Yep.
I really enjoyed the episode. I really uh not to get too far ahead, but like with the episodes that focus on the research base, I'm really, really enjoying. Um, so that's been great. You know, you're starting to see, they're kind of building a connection with her and Emery. You know, she's obviously kind of brainwashed with the Empire. Narla Sa, is that her name? The
Namaste.
Camino, Nalase,
Nam- Namaste.
Nalase. Really love her character. Like she's kind of a badass, right? Because she's, you know, to me, it doesn't seem like she's concerned with her life. She's more concerned with the life. Now, obviously, the research and what she's doing and science is like really important to her. But you know, Omega is really kind of what she's trying to save, who she's trying to save. So yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, it was kind of just an entry level episode, right? Like to kind of ease you back in to Bad Batch. Most of the time was, I think, all of the time pretty much was focused on the base.
Yeah.
And then second episode they kind of go in a different direction, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting point that you bring up about like Namaste. And I wonder, like, she knows that she's not going anywhere. She's essentially trapped, right? And I don't know if it's in her entire species or just like everyone she knows, because Camino was destroyed. The labs back there were completely destroyed and everyone killed. So maybe she just knows that the only way that news can or word can get out about what truly happened is through Omega. So she, like you said, she doesn't really care about herself. She has this hidden agenda, and it's to get Omega out of here. Um, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the third episode as well. And I will have to say, I knew, because we have those dogs or whatever, those hounds that they're kind of domesticating in
Yep.
there. And
Well,
then there's that one that,
they're not. She did.
right, she did.
They're using
One
them as like the Game of Thrones. What's the
like
guy's
hounds,
name?
like, yeah,
What's the guy's name that was just a complete Rathian or whatever his name is? Shoot, I forget his name.
Baratheon.
No, it was the one
Okay.
guy that like cut off the other dude's.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was such a bastard, literally and figuratively, apparently.
Yeah.
But they're kind of using the dogs for that, is what it seems like.
Yeah. And
But
then one
so
of them, oh, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned, she domesticated that one dog-like creature, which I just find funny because like she's in her cell, like marking off the days. What's she been in there for like
I
10
counted
days or something? She's already
it.
domesticated this feral
It's like it's
beast.
23. I think I counted 23
Yeah.
notches that she
So
put
like
up.
apparently in less than a month, she's got Fido trained better than my dogs.
Yeah, the dog whisperer, little Miss Caesar over there. Caesar
The dog
Milad.
whisperer. She's just going. Tss,
But
tss, tss. I also
dominant.
knew that that was going to be like
That's what I
something
was
that
gonna say.
comes
I
up in
knew
like a.
one, yeah, because the one gets injured and she rescues it, and that's what exactly what I was gonna say. Like I knew that Hound was gonna come back and play a part, and again when we get to episode 3, more to kind of feed off of there, but just kind of foreshadowing a little bit there. Um, Interesting that they're not allowed to have possessions. She still has her like lunch pail thing that she's able to hold on to and bring everywhere. And she like creates this like straw doll that kind of looks like the rabbit or whatever she has back on the ship. And obviously that's just kind of like a comfort creature for her. But
How old is
um
she? Because she kind of seems old to have a doll.
yeah, isn't she supposed to be like, well, let's see. So if we think about episode 2, and how old do you think those kids are? Like late teens?
Those kids are definitely like teenagers, right?
Yeah. I would say they're like or 17, 18. I would think Omega is probably like 14, 15, maybe a little younger.
Yeah.
So, yeah, probably a little young for a doll, but you know, there's sentiment. Like I said, it's kind of representative of the one that's back on the ship, and it's a reminder of, you know, her friends, her brothers. But then again, when you're in a room with nothing, like, what else are you supposed to do? So,
Yeah. You're not a prisoner. Go in
granted,
yourself.
she's only there 23. She's 23 days. I mean, yeah, that can get to you. That can be traumatic, but it could be a lot worse than 23 days. So,
So, even
uh,
in the first
oh, go ahead.
episode, going into the second, third, I'm really enjoying Hemlock as a bad guy. I think the voice acting is really good.
Yeah,
His demeanor is really good.
yeah,
So, I really enjoy when he's on screen talking.
yeah. You can tell he just doesn't give a shit about like he's just gonna do whatever he needs to do for the Emperor and for the Empire, and you know make his way up to what is not to jump ahead, but
Don't choke on your
the
aspirations.
the lead scientist or something like that.
He wanted to be
So
science minister.
yeah, science minister. So that's his ultimate objective, and he doesn't care what he needs to do um, to accomplish that. So, um, yeah. Anything else on that episode that either
Thought it
stands
was a
out
good
to you
episode.
or
I mean, I hold an animated show in different regard than like a live action show.
yeah,
So
that's
I
fair.
mean, I liked it. It's what we're used to. It feels like a warm blanket. Like I know what I'm getting out of the Bad Batch. They're, I think where they're going is really exciting. So I'm just really anxious to see how that plays out. Especially after that third episode, which we'll talk about. It's like, man, I really want to talk about that third episode. I almost want to skip the second episode because the second episode is kind of more like that creature feature, you know. But I do have a comment about the second episode that made me think of a parallel property that I've talked
Oh,
about.
I thought of it right away, and I thought of you about what is it what I'm thinking of?
Well,
We
you
could
tell
just go.
me. Let's
We'll
talk about
just
so first episode, good, right? Like not super great, but like leads us into where they're going, kind of like where Omega is and what they have planned for her. And then we go in the second episode.
Yep, and I agree. And I think they did a good job of building the concept in your mind that Crosshair is going to get out with Omega. Like they didn't just bring that up for it to not happen. So, um, moving into episode 2, titled Paths Unknown. So what I was going to get at was I thought of Alien when, they're going through the dark caves or whatever, the old facility that was got, shot, or essentially bombarded probably by a Star Destroyer or something like that. And you saw those little things that like run and was like jumping at their face or whatever. So I had alien vibes as I was seeing that. Is that what you were thinking?
100%. But I actually have something else to add to that too, because uh,
Okay.
if you remember, like the teenagers that they found, they were saying that it was one of the Empire's experiments gone wrong, right? Like they wanted to control these things, and they lost. It's like the Empire's Weyland Yutani in the Alien universe, right? Where they're trying to domesticate the aliens, right, to use as a weapon, and of course, every single time it goes awry, right? So, and like if you read the expanded universe and the books in the Alien universe, it's the same thing, right? Except they can get more detailed and do some cooler things than they can do in the movies. So, if you haven't read any of the Alien books, super dark, super gruesome. Uh, so keep that in mind. Like, definitely, some of those books kept me up at night and just gave me the heebie-jeebies. But again, that's what it made me think of, is like Weyland Yutani and the Empire kind of like trying to do the same thing.
Absolutely. And probably a little late to do this, but spoiler tag on all these episodes. Hashtag spoilers. We're talking about all these episodes, but we'll put it on our title so you'll get the point. I feel like it's been a common trend in the show, like for season 1 and season 2, that they sort of take a couple of episodes and replicate another franchise. I feel like we've seen like Godzilla, we've
Indiana
seen
Jones.
Indiana Jones,
Yep.
now we're seeing Alien. There's probably some more that I'm completely forgetting about, but it just seems like a common theme that we're seeing. I don't know if that's intentional. I mean, it almost has to be, at least maybe giving a little nods to some of those franchises, because like it's almost blatantly obvious with some of them how similar they've been. And, other works can definitely inspire new things, like Alien and Indiana Jones can definitely inspire episodes for a Star Wars show, but it's just interesting how similar they end up being. I mean, if you took Alien, I know it's a ship in space, but if you animated it, I feel like it would even look very similar because it was very dark, very, misty. It just gave me that same sense. And instead of aliens, it's,
Tentacles.
some tentacles.
It reminded me a lot of the Denjin that you find in the High Republic, like those
yeah,
things, right?
yeah.
They're
What are those
like
called?
hard. They're called the Denjin, right, or the Drenjin,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and they were very hard to
Something like
kill, and
them.
they were taking over the universe. That kind of is what that reminded me of.
Yeah.
It'd be
And
cool if
they're
they kind of. It would have been cool if they kind of like you know said that, like, oh, this is another scourge on
like
the universe, like that.
a descendant of that, or like maybe
Yeah.
even the same thing.
Yep. Or
Yeah. Because,
they
and
like warped it.
they are dark force users. I remember them talking about that in the High Republic. Um, I do this episode did make me question something. Were Sarlacc pits a thing before this? Because that was clearly a Sarlacc pit.
Mm, I don't know if it was clearly a Sarlacc pit.
I thought it was because you had the tentacle things and you had the mouth thing. So it was
I
the
mean, I definitely thought Sarlacc. I don't know if I thought that was a Sarlacc, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the history of Tatooine, as
one.
far as where
I
we are
guess
in the
that,
timeline.
well, we're before that. We're before um the original trilogy because we're between Clone Wars uh and the original trilogy. So I don't think we ever see a Sarlacc pit in the prequels. Not that there weren't any around. And I haven't read all the books out there on everything. So unless it was like a different version of a Sarlacc pit, or maybe the Empire was doing some testing with a Sarlacc pit, and then it turned out to be this thing, and that's why they weren't able to control it anymore. But I don't know. Maybe we'll get more information on that. But it's just something that popped in my mind. Like,
I
did
honestly
Sarlacc
doubt we'll
pits
get
come to
any more
existence within the
information.
Star Wars universe? Probably not. Probably not. But just fascinating to think if the Empire was the thing that introduced the Sarlacc pits on accident to their own universe. But so with this episode, this as the first one kind of show us where Omega and Crosshair are in the current situation. This one took us to show us where Hunter and Wrecker are in the current timeline of this season, and they're essentially doing some odd jobs, or they had done some odd jobs to obtain information on the whereabouts of Omega. I don't know. It seemed like some kind of syndicate group, right? And I know they brought in like a Pike syndicate. That's who Wrecker and Hunter brought in, uh, a person from the Pike syndicate that these people wanted to get a hold of, who had wronged them. And in exchange, they got a lead, but it wasn't a validated lead on where, what's the bad guy's name is?
Hemlock?
Hemlock, on where he is supposed to be. So they take that puck or whatever of information, and then they go to this location, and it's obviously abandoned only because it was destroyed. And this is the facility that we were talking about that these vine things are at. But they do meet these other three clones that manage to escape and survive. They're kind of wildlings at the moment, living in a cave, just doing whatever they can to find a way to get out of here. And that comes by means of Wrecker and Hunter. So one of them helps them out. The other two end up coming in the end to help them out, and they are able to escape the planet. And they now have a system of where Omega is, because that's why they encounter all these vines. They went into the research facility where, yes, sector, that's right. And we're able to tap into their systems and kind of get whereabouts where Hemlock is now. And they have a general vicinity, a sector. And so that's going to be their heading. So, what other major things did you find interesting or want to speak to with this episode?
Like, of the 3 episodes, this is probably the weakest for me, just because it was, kind of a creature feature episode. Slightly moved the plot along where, yeah, okay, now they have a general sense. I mean, this is like a quest that you go on in a video game where they just keep sending you doing these little errands. It's kind of what it feels like. So we'll probably keep getting that throughout their storyline as they're trying to piece together where Omega is. Which, again, I understand, like, in the grand scheme of things, like they don't want to make it easy. Like,
right.
Well, they beat up one guy and they told him, oh, that's where Omega's at. But it can get a little tedious. Depends on how they do it. And there's a lot of episodes that there's, going to be to work with. So I wonder if they're going to release them in like 3 episode blocks or.
No, it's going to be ones for a while. And then I think there'll be another double episode like in the middle of the release, and then a double episode at the end of the season. So
yeah, I really want to get to the 3rd episode because holy cow.
Yeah, I will say, and then we'll jump to the 3rd episode. At least, to your point about, I mean, I agree. I think of the 3, it's probably the lesser of the 3. But and it's kind of a creature feature, but at least it's relevant to, like you said, continuing the story. It's not like a side quest type of a thing. This is their objective. This is their quest. They're trying to find Omega, and at least we're advancing the plot line. Because I think, to me, not that I don't enjoy side, quest type things, but I get a lot more out of when we're doing things that are progressing the story. So at least this can keep me focused and, you know, understanding of the storyline of these characters at least. And, you know, they're going to come back together at some point and it's all going to make sense. Um, so with that, let's get to the third episode. So Shadows of Tantiss. This one got really interesting. Especially we got an emperor sighting, which, you know, can't go wrong with that. I know when we watched the trailer, I was questioning on who actually voiced, and it was definitely Ian McDermott who voiced the emperor in this one. It definitely sounded like him. So I was happy to see that.
I mean, even an animated series, like when he shows up, man, you feel the gravitas, right? You feel the
You really do.
danger and the power. And I mean, this was so well done. It was so well done.
Yeah. Is it his voice or is it more than just his voice?
It's his voice. I mean, even like how he's animated is still really good, right? Like, and obviously we know how powerful he is as an entity. And then again, I think I know where this is going. So,
Mhm.
I think it's kind of exciting in that sense.
And you saying that just made me think something. It seems like whenever we see the Emperor, even within this animated show or any animated show, because the animation is a little bit jaggedy, right? You see people walking around and they're little like, it doesn't look normal. You see him walking and it's as smooth as can be. It's like he separates himself from any of the other animations around. So that's just something I thought of when you said that. And I'm going to probably pay attention more to that.
Plus, we had an Imperial Guard sighting.
Oh, those are always great.
Yeah.
But every time I see them, I get really sad because I had a micro machine when I was a kid, and I had one of those, and it was like my favorite one. I'm like, I love this thing, and then I lost it. So it's PTSD every time I see them now. But so in this episode, this is essentially what turns out to be the escape episode for Omega and Crosshair. It is also, like I said, the appearance of the Emperor and giving insight about what's going, well, not exactly what's going on, but we're getting better ideas of what's going on within this facility. And we're getting a sense of the gravity of who Omega is, or why the Emperor wants Omega, or why Hemlock wants Omega, and the consequences that can come forth if they don't. Because the Emperor literally told Hemlock, like, nothing else matters in everything I'm doing more than this. You have the right to whatever you need within the empire to accomplish this mission. So, again, just showing the gravity of the situation. And we see that Omega's blood is what they're looking for, which, I mean, that's kind of obvious. I think we knew that from the get-go. Like, they kept making or kept making sure to point out her blood. So it's like once hers gets to that dial, that it's going to trigger something that they're looking for. So
I just love that, like, even in the Star Wars universe, that took forever, you know. And it's funny because, like, as soon as her blood came, it was like ding, 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 ding. But, like, all the other bloods is like, meh. Like, it took like however long, right? Hours. It must have been hours to get the other ones. I thought that was just kind of one of those tension building things that I just saw right through, so it didn't really build a lot of tension for me.
Well,
So
to be
here's what
honest,
I think's going on.
oh, go ahead.
So I think this is pretty obvious, and so we might get some comments on this, but I clearly think this is where they're going to introduce the fact that he wants to basically transfer his consciousness into these clones, right? Which is what happens in the Rise of Skywalker. So it'll be really cool to tie into that and answer like how that came to be, right? Because that's why he's like, oh, we can't have M count degradation, or the host won't be viable for him to transfer into. So that's where I think it's going. Again, which is freaking awesome because it explains, even though Rise of Skywalker I think sucks as a movie, at least they're trying to explain it, right? They can't retcon it. Like, why at this point would we
Right,
do that?
right.
So Yeah, I think that's what's happening. Right? I love like the little vault. It's like the Mission Impossible vault, like
Yeah.
like each door opens with the plasma shields or the ray shields rather. Just yeah, that was really well done. And I think he's looking at a clone of himself or Snoke, like something. And whether it's Snoke or himself, it doesn't really matter. It's just that that's where this is going. And I also think, uh, I think him, the Emperor, telling Hemlock that he's got whatever resources he needs, that's foreshadowing, I think, Vader coming into the picture.
Hmm.
Because now that they've
I never
escaped,
even thought of that. That's a good point.
now that they've escaped, all resources to get him back, right? Well, who's the top dog in the Empire, under uh the Emperor? It would be probably what you'll start to see is the Inquisitors go out, right? Maybe get diverted from some of their things and sent to go after the Bad Batch. And then if they start failing, okay, now hey, you know what? We're not messing around. Vader, go get them. Now again, I could be
Which would
wrong, but that's what it feels
explain
like. That bit of
no.
dialogue to me is the foreshadowing of something like that happening.
So to your first point about what's going on here, 100%. Like this is
What about
all a
two hundred
means
percent?
to clone Palpatine. Yeah, I'll go higher than that even. I mean, even the project name Necromancer, that raising the dead type of a thing, like keeping yourself alive through other beings one way or another. So, it, spot on. It has to be. Now, Snoke probably gets thrown in there as like a test subject. You can't just even when you can maintain the midichlorian thing, like you got to really test it on something first. So maybe that's where Snoke comes in because we have seen, I think that was in Rise of Skywalker, a bunch of like degraded Snokes, so failed Snokes or something like that. So that's probably the round one. So is this facility what we see in um Rise of Skywalker?
That facility was on Exegol.
Right, was the facility on X?
Pretty
Yeah,
sure it
you're right.
was.
That was on Exegol. Okay. And
I think after I think they're going to find the facility, right? So it's not a secret anymore. That's
then
another
move to
thing that's,
Exegol.
the Empire said is like, it's an utmost priority that this facility does not get discovered. Whoops. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
uh,
Uh
but, it would stand to reason after the Empire collapsed that, or after the facility gets discovered that, Emperor would have other locations to go to.
yeah.
Maybe they
And
explain that in this series. Maybe they don't. But again, where this is going is really exciting. It feels really consequential to the
yeah.
Star Wars universe. And, we saw how that could work with Rebels and the Clone Wars. So bravo to Dave Filoni and again, I could be wrong. We could be way off base and Samsonite way off. But
Do it start with an S though.
yeah, that's where I hope things are going. To me, it just feels real natural for it to go that way, and so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and to your second point about Vader, also a great point because that would explain Ventress coming in. Because where you've got like a force wielder, you need another force wielder on the good guy's side to kind of counter that. Otherwise, like they're screwed.
Yeah,
Because we've seen her in the
that I didn't think about. So this is kind of cool. Like this is why you love podcasting and why we have these discussions even offline is because you're right. Like at this point, Ventress should be on the good guy side, right? Maybe not like truly good, but out of the Empire's clutches. So yeah, we can definitely see
she
where that
has enough
goes.
hate for she has enough hate for the Empire and for the Sith, so she would definitely be against Darth Vader and any of the Inquisitors that represent the Empire. So, which could mean we see Ahsoka in the show, because when I think of at least Ventress at this time, the last time we saw her was season 7 of Clone Wars when Ahsoka encountered her. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe Ahsoka comes into the story too. I think that'd be too much. I kind of hope they don't bring Ahsoka because she has her own show right now.
Yeah.
But they're
I
gonna
just
have,
like having massage. I think you're right.
yeah. And I mean, I don't know how they're gonna bring her in, but because it's not like the clones, meaning the Bad Batch, ever really crossed her before or know who she is. So who knows? Maybe there's going to be other cameos in this one way or another, and we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, and this just again continuing the story that we're trying to tell or what they're trying to tell here. This isn't a side quest or anything. I think that's what a majority of season 3 will be. I know there will be off episodes here and there, but I think more so than the previous two, because they've already announced this is the last season. This is the last season of Bad Batch. So they're going to really hone it in and, complete this story. I I foresee other animated shows coming after this because I mean, they've been some of the most successful and entertaining stuff that we've received in Star Wars, at least as of late. I mean, like Rebels and Clone Wars, that's some of the best stuff that we've gotten. So you can't just end these animation shows. Dave Filoni still needs to find other stories to tell here. So it'll be interesting because we got Bad Batch by ending Clone Wars. So will ending Bad Batch start a continuation story of something else? So, which
I
I
do
wonder.
love I do love Crosshair's like just kind of ambivalence towards Omega and then like his frustration. He's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like you didn't really have a plan. You're just winging this shit. And now I have to fucking figure it out, from here. Like, he's a tactician, right? So I did like that. And to me, the only hokey part was the stupid dog, right? Coming to the rescue at the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
second, right? Like you
And of
knew it
course,
was
he got caught on the
coming.
ship.
You knew it was coming. There's a foreshadowing of like, Hemlock saying, well, you just prolonged its suffering because it's just gonna die in the wild and blah blah blah. Which is 100% true. Like like in the sense that like if you put a domesticated dog out in front of a bunch of wild dogs, like this ain't freaking Homeward Bound, okay? Like, which we just watched that with my kid and he fucking loved that. So
Oh, that's a great movie.
it still holds up, man. It
Does it
still
choke
holds
you up
up.
at the end? Choke you up at the end?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm sitting there like,
Shadow?
uh, so oh yeah, dude, that's a great movie. I'm starting to. Side note, we're gonna go on a little side quest here. As I got older, I'm 36, right? So I'm not that old, but as I have gotten older, I found myself like being more interested in going back and watching older movies I've seen before, but they're like comfort food versus watching something new. Like, there's not much that's new that's really exciting to me. One of those things, however, is Dune 2, or Dune Part 2, which is coming out, which I'm super, super, super pumped for, and it's getting fantastic reviews. So, I mean, the Dune Part 1 was excellent. So, and my brother and I have a Dune connection because we like just powered through all of the books through audiobooks. And I mean, it doesn't make sense for them to go anywhere past like Dune Messiah. It goes way off the rails, and it doesn't make for good movies or television. But
So are the movies, are they the books? Like, are they telling the book story, or are the movies a separate story from all the books?
so what? Right? So it's going to be a trilogy. Okay, I can tell you that at least. I mean, based on the reviews I read and non spoilers, right? I've already read the books. I mean, like, but the first book is covered by the first two movies, and then the third book, Messiah, which is a shorter book, it will be covered by that trilogy piece. Is my understanding. So
Wait, say that again. I didn't follow. So the
okay,
first,
so Dune,
yeah,
the book Dune, like the,
yeah,
the one everyone knows, that is part one and part two.
okay,
Right. Part two is gonna conclude the book called Dune.
okay.
Right? And then there's another book called Dune Messiah that is the direct sequel that the trilogy is going to conclude on. And then
Okay.
past that, doesn't really make any sense to really get it really goes off the rails, and I don't think it makes for good movies or television.
Okay. No, but
Anyway,
you were talking about enjoying movies that you've seen, going back to some of the older stuff. I feel like that's what the movie industry is doing anyways right now. They're doing a lot more remakes
yeah.
that are interesting versus and I'm sure a lot of that is due to, they had the strikes and everything. And ever since COVID, like the money just hasn't necessarily been there. So, you know, but yeah, I agree. I've been finding myself doing the same things, like even watching shows all over again that I've already seen. So,
Yeah,
even
I don't
reading
do
books.
that.
Like I was rereading The Hobbit.
Yeah, my brother reread Lord of the Rings. Andy reread the Dune book. I have a hard time rereading books, like going back and watching shows. But like movies, I can rewatch no problem. Like I just watched Air Force One. St- I mean, it's goofy and it's hokey, but man, that line "Get off my plane" still holds up. I was like, yeah, fuck you, Reddick or Raddick or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great movie. Um, but yeah, so very fascinated to see where this season leads us. A Bad Batch. Again, this is the final season, but I think there's like 15 or 16 episodes that they're
Yeah,
gonna
it's so long. I
have for
mean,
this. So
they've
it'll be
they've
around for a bit.
they've done a lot of storytelling in the first three episodes, considering the length of them and then the amount of episodes to go. So pretty excited. I do think we're going to get some filler episodes that aren't going to be particularly interesting. I mean, that's just the way it goes with that many episodes, right?
Yeah.
Go
And
on
they're
another
like
side
20.
quest. I can
Yeah.
tell you what still fucking sucks is the Halo show.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna I didn't play the games. I have no interest in the show, honestly.
I mean, I played the games. I love the games. I have very fond memories of playing the games as a kid. Early multiplayer. And even the most recent game, Halo Infinite, was great. The show is caca poo poo.
And you know what show? I think I told you this already. I, was better the second time through. You say you don't watch
Oh,
shows
Rings
the
of
same.
Power.
I enjoyed that a
My
lot
brother
more.
said that too. I should
Did
maybe rewatch that,
did he
especially when you
really?
can rewatch it back to back to back. Which we're supposed to have a freaking movie marathon, Mudge. When's that happening? I'm free this weekend.
When I'm not in the hospital. Yeah, we should do it a weekend that Colleen works. So that would make it easier. So we'll find a weekend for that.
Until Kentucky, I've got no plans. So
Sounds good. But yeah, watching that show a second time, I don't know why it resonated more. And it's not great. It's not like the best show out there. But like the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh, this is disappointing. And then second time through, I'm like, oh, okay. It's pretty good. It's pretty good actually. It makes me interested on what direction they're gonna go. So um yeah. But we'll bring it back to Star Wars. Uh
Acolyte,
really excited to see the Acolyte. Yeah. Finally gonna get
June
into,
5th,
well,
right?
I guess it's what, 50 years prior? Yeah, June 5th. And we're jumping 50 years before the prequels.
So
So
like at the tail end of the High
I
Republic
have to
era.
imagine it's like, yes. And like bringing in probably the Sith. So the birth of the Sith through the prequels, my guess at least. So Palps might get an origin story type of thing
Helps.
here. Which
So
if you
then are
haven't
we
read
gonna
that,
get a Darth Plagueis sighting?
yeah, that would be my guess.
Yep.
Which
That
is a
would be really
great,
cool.
great book. If you haven't read it, do it. Do yourself the justice of reading that book. You get some good Palps times through that. So all right. Well, anything else that you want to speak to
That's all
with
I got, man. I'm you and I are both dads. I'm running out of steam a little bit.
well,
You
and
know,
I also have an hour long limits, doctor's orders for every hour I sit. I've got to get up and walk for 5 to 10 minutes. And we're at 50 minutes right now for our episode. So we're cutting it at the right time. So with that, I'll just speak to our social media handles really quick. So you can find us on Twitter at DetBlockAA23pod, on Instagram at detention_block_AA_23. And then our Facebook group and YouTube channels, Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. Bring us your likes, comments, reviews, subscriptions, downloads, all of it. Bring us your dislikes. Bring us your attention. All of that really helps us get our name out there amongst the hundreds of Star Wars podcasts out there. Really excited for our Kentucky trip coming up. We're going to be recording and
I'm gonna get so drunk on that plane. I mean, you're gonna have to like carry me.
I'm gonna be like,
hey man, we're sitting in Delta Comfort, so we get free drinks.
I'll stick to the light beers so then I can just have my count for that day, right? So I won't drink all week. I'll just have it for the weekend. I'll have my 14 points during that time.
So, like, there's a craft beer.
Hey, who knows? Well, it all depends on its alcohol percentage. It's all about the alcohol percentage. So 5% alcohol beer is one. So I guess I could have more light beer, but 5% beer is one alcohol. We're drinking
White Girl Wasteds all week. I mean, that's the beer that he has that's probably going to fit that description. So, okay. Hey, and if anybody's listening to this, or anybody that does listen to this wants to join us in Lexington, if you go there and you know we're going to do a live podcast, and if you tell my brother you know me, he's going to charge you double. So don't do that. But you know, come and join us. We're going to have a lot of fun. Lexington's a really fun town to begin with, and then the fact that my brother has a brewery down there is really exciting because I'm the mascot. I get to drink, you know, not really for free because again he charges me a lot, but
well, you got to name drop the brewery, so
it's called Mirror Twin Brewing. So Derek and I were known as Mirror Twins. I'm predominantly left-handed. He's predominantly right-handed. So kind of a little cool homage to our twin upbringing. And I live in the Twin Cities, which is kind of cool.
True that. So I guess that means he has to move up here. Bring it, you know, maybe he needs a second location for his brewery.
Yeah, they have been scouting that, but it's probably going to end up being in like St. Louis or something like that. So.
Okay. Closer to home. Got it. All right. Well, we look forward to that. Look forward to seeing anyone if you come join us. We'll look forward to it. Just stop by our table and say hello. With that, thanks for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your week. And look forward to, well, we might have to be doubling up now so we can hit the 100th episode on that day. So we'll see how many episodes we bring you each week, but we will be coming back next week as well, Wednesday or Thursday, probably Wednesdays. So any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird time in sports, right? You got spring training going on, but really nothing much. I mean, MLS has started, which is cool. I've gotten really into that now that St. Louis has a team. I was into it a little bit when, you know, I mean, my wife's a big United fan, that, you know, the Minnesota team. But, you know, we'll be coming up on, you know, the busy sports season with NCAA coming up, UFL. Woohoo! UFL starting up March 30th, guys. So anyway, I'm sure we just lost all our listeners, but that's all I got.
Hey, the Brewers re-signed Woodruff, so I was happy.
That's a great move. That is, I'm surprised. I mean, it's silly why more teams wouldn't have been interested in that, knowing that he was out for a year still.
I'm so glad that just saved so much pitching for us. Obviously, we won't really have him this coming year, but it looks like we'll have him for 2025 and probably 2026. So it was a 2-year, but there's an option in there. So
I think the Brewers are going to be sneaky okay. Like, I don't think they're going to be terrible.
It's the pitching. I mean, it's all going to come down to the pitching for us.
Yeah, but I mean, like, again, I mean, we can talk about this offline, but I don't think your pitching's that bad. It's certainly not the worst in the division, and you know.
But the offense was the worst in the division, which is why the pitching needs to offset it. Yeah, we did make some upgrades there. So, well, we'll leave it at that. Dustin and I will talk that offline. Um, with that, thanks again. And as always, may the force be with you.
And also with our flag football team that I play on,